Welcome to the studio at That Nerd Show. I'm Marcus Blake, and this is your daily nerd news for Monday, February 3rd, 2020. Our top story of the day takes us to the world of film and streaming service and Broadway. Disney has paid $75 million for the worldwide movie rights to Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton. It is the biggest film acquisition deal ever. When Lin-Manuel Miranda tweeted the news Monday that the movie adaptation of his groundbreaking Broadway show Hamilton was set for release by Disney in the fall of 2021, he omitted one of the most breathtaking parts of the deal. According to sources, Disney beat out other suitors and paid a whopping $75 million for the worldwide rights to the show that won 11 Tony Awards in 2016, as well as the Pulitzer Prize for Drama. Disney won the deal with a commitment for a wide global theatrical release for the 2-hour, 40-minute movie, which was shot 2 weeks before the original cast left. It will also end up on Disney Plus eventually. That's where the streaming part of this news comes in. Anyway, sources were quoted as saying, "I can't think of an acquisition of a finished film that has gone for more money than this one. It is, however, a seminal cultural zeitgeist event, and as Miranda himself has said, the movie allows people to avoid having to pay $500 a seat, which they were before the original cast had moved on." You could hardly call this profligate spending, given that when Hamilton finishes its traditional theatrical run, it will then become a major title on the Disney Plus streaming service. So, in 2021, we're going to get the movie version of Hamilton, and then eventually on Disney Plus streaming service. But as I said, this marks the biggest acquisition deal ever for the movie rights. In other news, Bad Boys for Life drives towards $300 million globally, but China's stall impacting the overall numbers in 2020's international box office. But anyway, Bad Boys for Life continues to lead the international box office, taking the top spot for the third weekend in a row. The offshore frame was $30.8 million in 63 markets for an overseas cum of $142.7 million and a worldwide total of $291 to date. Globally, it is the biggest in the franchise and holding well, down just 38% in already opened offshore hubs. The top 5 are currently the UK, Germany, Mexico, Australia, and Russia. Italy is still, it has not opened in Italy yet. As was the case last weekend, it's likely a local Chinese movie might have been at the top of the chart, but given theaters across the vast nation have been shuttered due to the spreading coronavirus, screens remain dark. When that will change is still unclear, although we do know that a series of Hollywood titles slotted for upcoming releases have now been put on hold indefinitely. They include Dolittle, Jojo Rabbit, and others. There's no word yet on how Disney's Mulan might be affected in March. For now, it's wait and see. But Bad Boys for Life is still king of the box office. In other movie news, Spike Lee is set to direct the film version of David Byrne's American Utopia, which is on stage right now. Spike Lee has signed on to direct the film version of the acclaimed Broadway show David Byrne's American Utopia. Participant adds another title to its portfolio of films meant to engage positive social change, as it will be the lead financier and executive producer for the project. It is financing the film with the River Road Entertainment and Warner Music Group. The film will be produced by Radical Media as well as Byrne's Totamundo and Lee's 40 Acres and a Mule Filmwork production companies. Byrne, Lee, and participant Jeff Skoll, David Lind, and Diane Wyman will share executive producer credits alongside with the Warner Music Group, David Bither, Charlie Cohen, and Kurt Deutsch. Bill Polad of River Road and Radical Media's John Carmen, David Shirilnik, and Meredith Bennett, Christian Kasky, Mike Isaac, and Patrick Cotullo, who lead produced the Broadway production, will also serve as executive producers. But there will be a film version of this critically acclaimed Broadway production, and directed by Spike Lee. And now we turn our attention to TV and streaming news of the day. Coming off her acclaimed role in Unbelievable, Toni Collette will set to star in Pieces of Her, a Netflix drama series. It's a dramatic thriller based on the 2018 book by best-selling crime author Karen Slaughter. Minky Spiro, The Plot Against America, is set to direct the 8-episode series from the all-female creative team of executive producers Leslie Linker-Glatter, Charlotte Stout, and Bruna Papandreou. Written by Stout, who serves as the showrunner, Pieces of Her is set in a sleepy Georgia town where a random act of violence sets off an unexpected chain of events for the 30-year-old Andy Oliver and her mother Laura, played by Toni Collette. Desperate for answers, Andy embarks on a dangerous journey across America, drawing her towards the dark hidden heart of her family. No word yet on when that will premiere on Netflix, but filming is scheduled for this year. In other streaming news, well, it was announced this week that J.K. Simmons and Bruce Dern will join the final season of this great series on Amazon. Both actors are set to be series regulars opposite Billy Bob Thornton in the upcoming fourth and final season of Amazon's hit legal drama. It is created by David E. Kelly and Jonathan Shapiro. Goliath, Season 4, sees Billy McBride, played by Billy Bob Thornton, taking on a case that tackles a timely global crisis impacting an entire generation. It also stars Nina Aranda from Stan and Ollie as Patty Solis Papagan, and Tanya Remain and as Brittany Gold, Diane Hopper as Denise McBride, and Julie Brister as Marva Jefferson. Simmons plays George Zacks, head of a family-owned and operated pharmaceutical company, one of the nation's biggest. Dern will portray Frank Zacks, George's brother and the scientific genius and ostracized black sheep of the Zacks family. So we got two major Hollywood heavyweights that'll be joining the final season of Goliath next year. So we can't wait to check that out. It's been one of our favorite series here at That Nerd Show. And that is what's going on in TV and streaming and movie news in the world today. Now we turn our attention to gaming news, and we've got some exciting information for gamers out there. We start with Pokemon Day 2020 will reveal a new mythical Pokemon coming to the Sword and Shield game. That's right. The official Japanese Pokemon website has revealed that Pokemon Day 2020 is set to take place on February 27th, which is a Thursday. As translated by Saribi, the special day will include a whole host of special Pokemon-related events coming to Pokemon Go and Pokemon Sword and Shield, the video game. The most notable event of the day will see the reveal of a new mythical Pokemon that will be available in the upcoming Pokemon movie. Also will be in the Pokemon movie Coco. The film, which currently doesn't have a Western release date, is set to debut in Japan on July 10th. But in the world of Pokemon Sword and Shield, there are already 3 different mythical Pokemons, including the very good Doggo legendary Zamenthia in Pokemon Shield and Zacian in Pokemon Sword, along with Eternatus. Outside of the new mythical Pokemon, a new special Max Reed battle will be running for the occasion in Sword and Shield, and a special event is also coming to Pokemon Go. The website doesn't go into much detail surrounding these special events for both games, but we will keep you up to date as soon as we know more. But that's right, get ready for Pokemon Day and some exciting stuff in regards to the video game, Sword and Shield. In other gaming news, we have some more updates from the upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077. It looks like that the street stories are going to be minor quests designed to help you explore the world. Like I said, it was announced this week that street stories will fill out life in Night City and dozens of smaller narratives to encounter the first-person RPG and CD Project Red will have a spectrum of different mission types. Sounds like Street Stories will have a different feel to campaign missions, smaller and less cinematic, but perhaps all the more important for making you feel like Night City is a living place and that you're a part of its community. A new on MSFT interview with Cyberpunk 2077 producer that came out last week, John Mamis, explained more about the CD Projekt Red and how they're approaching the game's open world. As opposed to Witcher 3, where the work on the open world parts of the game started late in development with a few dedicated developers, Mamis said that Cyberpunk 2077 places more of a focus on encountering interesting events and stories out in the world. There are layers upon layers. There is a passive layer, which is the vendors. Then there's the STSs, which are the street stories. Mamis explains, and stating that there's around 75 street stories, and then there's minor activities as well. The street stories are like little quests. There's a story, but there's not. Like advanced cinematic storytelling sequences so much, they're a way to explore the world and level up your character. Mamis said street stories can use certain templates, but each is customized to feel the unique, and that the world is going to be filled with them, with roughly 75 to encounter. That sounds about right. So that is what's going on with Cyberpunk 2077. It looks like we're going to have a lot of great little side missions with the game, and they're going to be called street stories. We'll definitely let you know more as we find out more about this game. And we have one more piece of gaming news for you today. Temtem bans over 900 players and outlines its policy on cheating. That's right, it was announced today that that 900 players from the Temtem have been banned for cheating. The developer stated on their official Twitter account that it wouldn't consider appealing any of the bans. They are 100% certainty with every banned user is either a cheater or has abused exploits intentionally. If you don't know what this is a Pokemon-like MMO game. But anyway, Creme later tempered that statement, the developer stating ban appeals would be considered despite full confidence that all 900 banned players were legitimately axed from the game. Here is their quote: "We're not done with this. We will keep detecting and banning. There's no place in the archipelago for cheaters." They also said that the team spent all morning checking banned accounts and players' accounts, saying they didn't do anything illegally. They have rechecked over 100 accounts. Every single one of them was a legit ban. A few hours and a ton of negative feedback later, the developer posted a new tweet re-emerging on the rather aggressive policy and directing players on how to appeal a ban. Like you said, having no appeal, like they said, having no appeal policy is not a good thing. But it looks like that they are seriously cracking down on the cheaters in their Pokemon-like MMO game. So once we get more news about the appeal process and whether some of these accounts are coming back and how they're handling everything, we will definitely let you know. But I think it should also be noted that it's fairly interesting that they're going after and they're aggressive about their cheaters in this MMO. I wonder if Activision and the team behind Call of Duty would ever do the same thing regarding their multiplayers and people and ranking up so fast. Just saying, as a matter of opinion here on that nerd show and the gaming staff. That is what's happening in gaming, TV, movie, and streaming news today. And now we turn our attention to the question of the day. In honor of the exciting news that we heard just about Hamilton being turned into a movie and Disney paying a whopping $75 million for it, we thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about Broadway musicals and movies. So your question today is, should Broadway musicals actually be turned into movies? Now, we have a long history of this in Hollywood. It seems like every great musical eventually gets a movie treatment, from West Side Story to Grease to, Les Miserables has been turned into how many movies, some singing, some that doesn't involve music that is more directly aligned with the Victor Hugo book. But if it's a musical and it's big enough, it eventually gets to be a movie. But should it? I guess what I'm really asking is this. What is a better version? Is it better to see such great productions on stage and to have that live experience? Or can their movie counterparts be great? West Side Story actually won Best Picture in 1960, or well, 1961, but it came out in 1960, and 60 years later, we're doing a remake of that musical with Steven Spielberg at the helm. The 2012 musical version of Les Miserables was an absolute hit and very emotional, great cast. Anne Hathaway, knocked it out of the park, singing the part of, a Fantine, just like her mother did years before. But then again, we also have really bad movies that come along, like the Cats movie, which we're all asking ourselves now, should that movie have ever been made with terrible CGI? They weren't even ready for that movie to be released and had to go back and fix the CGI. But I don't think that really good CGI would have helped the fact that you're taking this, musical that was a hit and trying to put it on the big screen. And I don't care who the cast is. The movie just sucked. Okay. But then again, we were all greatly surprised by the musical version of Phantom of the Opera in 2004, with Gerard Butler actually singing and being the Phantom. Didn't think that he was going to be able to pull it off, and yet he did. And everybody was great in that movie. But we could also rephrase the question this way. Is there certain musicals that should never be turned into movies? That should be just for the stage and we should experience it that way? Or are some musicals so great that it doesn't matter whether it's on stage or in a movie, in a film too? I wonder if the Hamilton movie is even, if we're ever going to have the same experience that, people, if they're ever going to have the same experience that people did being able to see that live, such a groundbreaking musical. But, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think a lot of people do tend to forget that Mary Poppins originally was on stage. And we seem to remember the Disney movie with Julie Andrews more. They came out with a sequel with Emily Blunt that was very good as well. The last movie version that we actually had of Oklahoma was really just a film version of the stage play with Hugh Jackman playing Curly in 1999. It's a catch-22, especially in today's world. How do you... I think some can pull it off, and I think some don't. And I think you have to ask the question, really, should we just have it on stage and let people experience that with traveling productions? Or, can the film ever truly match? I've seen Les Miserables multiple times, okay? It's always a better experience seeing it live, especially with the power of that music. But I also applaud the efforts of Hugh Jackman and Anne Hathaway and Eddie Raymond and stuff, and also Russell Crowe, who did a great job singing and playing Javert in that movie. It was very, very good and very emotional. Sometimes it's a hit or miss. I don't know if I can appreciate Grease on stage as much as, I do and enjoy the movie. But here's another really interesting take. What about television stations like NBC that want to film live productions with new cast members that seem to fall flat? Nothing against Allison Williams as an actress, but the Peter Pan movie or live production that she was a part of was horrible. their version of Grease, not really that good either. And I guess it really comes down to how you present it, and how you can pull it off. I think one reason that the original West Side Story was so successful is because of how much they put into the dancing and the choreography. And it was just, even today, it's a timeless and beautiful movie 60 years later. But that is our question of the day. Should Broadway musicals actually be turned into movies? Or should it be a case-by-case basis? I don't know how I feel about Hamilton being turned into a movie. I'd like to think that being able to see the live production will probably end up always being better. But then again, if you're able to actually get the original cast to do the movie version, much like they did with Rent, which that's another shining example where it really did work, and I think it worked because you did have the original cast, But then again, Rent is just basically Puccini's La Boheme told in the 1980s during an AIDS epidemic. It doesn't take away from the power of the story. It's still good. But at the same time, it's just an updated version of a great opera. We would like to know what you think. For those fans of movies and musicals and all that, tell us what you think. You can tweet us out at That Nerd Show. Should Broadway musicals be turned into movies? And if so, which ones do you like and which ones do you not like? When have they succeeded and when have they failed? Thank you for watching. I'm Marcus Blake with That Nerd Show, and this has been your Daily Nerd News. Until the next time, goodbye.